Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So everyone, we come from group 1. Today we're going to explain about the material of word-for-word translation and literal translation. Oh, for your information, today we're just going to explain it by two of us because two of our friends cannot join this meeting for today, so it's just us that will explain about this subject. Okay, so the first material will be explained by me. My name is Gadis Berliana. So Nina, can you please next slide? Okay, first thing, we have to know what is translation is. Oxford University defines translation as the process of translating words or text from one language into another. This can mean the word-to-word rendering of the text in one language to another or replacing the equivalents of the words or phrases in one text to another. Translation is an act through which the content of a text is transferred from the source language into the target language. The language to be translated is called the source language, whereas the language to be translated into or arrive or at is called the target language or TL. Okay, next. Okay, here we have translation method. There are eight translated method in translating. It's about literal, paid pause, semantic, adaptive, free, idiomatic, communicative, and word for word. And here we're going to talk about word for word translation. Next. Okay, what is word for word translation? Word for word translation or literal translation is translation of a text done by translating each other separately without looking at how the words are used together in phrase or sentence. Next. There is characteristic of word-for-word translation. It is often considered a bad practice of conveying word-by-word translation in non-technical text. This usually refers to the mistranslation of idioms that affect the meaning of the text, making it unintelligible. Or we can say that there's the weakness of word-for-word translation. It does not allow for context, which can extremely important in conveying meaning, and then many words have more than one meaning. And it can be very difficult to match one word to another. It does not pay much attention to the meaning of the text as a whole. We can say that like that. The characteristic of word-for-word translation is the concept of literal translation may be viewed as an oxymoron or contradiction in terms, given that literal denotes something existing without interpretation, whereas a translation, by its very nature, is an interpretation and interpretation of the meaning of words from one language into another. Next. Here we get example of word for word translation. We can we can see it in the screen that there's a Spanish version of a sentence that translates to English. And then here, sometimes it works and sometimes it does not work. For example, the Spanish sentence above could not be translated into French or German using the technique because the French and German sentence structure are completely different. And because one sentence can be translated literally across language, does not mean that all sentences can be translated literally. Okay, then the next slide will be explained by Nina Indah Safitri.
Literal translation occurs when text is translated word for word from one language to other. It does not pay much attention to the meaning of a text as a whole. Such a direct translation results in unintelligible sentence and poor grammatical structure. And then, literal translation refers to any translation that replaces word from one language to other without evaluating the cultural context. Word-for-word translation is common part while learning a language. Nevertheless, you cannot retain the message of the original content when you literally translate on word at a time, meaning literal translation has significant limitations for business. And then, example of literal translation. Many online translation tools provide a word-for-word translation. The research are usually free and do not require specific knowledge of the target language or other technical skill. The translation are produced by algorithms. The reality translate sentence at a time. That's why they sound mechanical and automatic. And the example, toca pero is an idiom used when avoiding but like. This phrase literally translates touch iron in English. However, the correct translation is touch word, which translates word for word tocca ligno in Italian. And then what you should avoid literal translation. The above literal translation example should already given you an idea of the problem that come from word for word translation. Next. Literal translation should be in technical and scientific phrase, which is essential to ensure that terms correspond perfectly in the original and translate version of a text. And to translate literally require basic language skill, but creative translation require a deep knowledge of the target language. And then literal translation uh, versus creative translation. The first one, literal translation, is a accurate and quick, yet mechanical. It does not consider the grammar and the structure of the target language, and literally translate word without considering the tune and meaning. They often come from online research like Google Translate, where we got our literal translation example. And then there are steps for a natural translation. Getting a literal translation using online tools can be tempting, but I will not so natural or effective. Back to Anna.
Another video of us that will be posted on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment about the material that we just explained before. Thank you for you guys. See you. Bye.